Biological men and women don't exist because men and women dictate gender, not sex.
Man, woman, girl, boy, these are gender terms. Male and female are sex terms. Here's the World Health Organization's stance on gender being different than sex.
Because woman and man are gender terms, which are different than things like male, female, and intersex, which are sex terms. Because as I've said several times now, sex and gender are different things.
I am honored to serve as the first female 4-star officer of the U.S. Public Health Service Commissioned Corps.
This year, Schneider, she made history as the first transgender contestant to make the Tournament of Champions.
We've been seeing a lot of transphobia recently. I know more about biology, and especially the biology of sex and the genetics behind it, than you do, okay? That's just a fact. Deal with it. But we're gonna educate you now. I'm actually gonna go through this very carefully, all right? It all comes down to a gene called SOX9, okay? If SOX9 is active, you'll get a boy. It will develop into a phenotypic male. And so on the Y gene, okay, there's a gene called SRY1. But we're gonna educate you now. I'm actually gonna go through this very carefully. You do produce SOX9 and you get a boy. So how do we get an XX person who is a boy? I know more about biology than you do, okay? That's just a fact. Deal with it.
If you have lots and lots of very small gametes, we call those sperm and we call you a boy. If you have very few big gametes, we call those eggs and we call you a girl. If you have lots and lots of very small little gametes, we call those sperm and you're a boy. If you have relatively few very large gametes, we call those eggs and you're a girl.
Oh look, it's a PDF of Campbell Biology, and look for the word gender. The term gender, previously used as a synonym for sex, is now more used to refer to an individual's own experience as identifying as male, female, or otherwise.
Bodies and gender are actually pretty separate things. It can be male, female, neither, a mix of both, or exist totally outside of that.
To be a separate third category for trans people to compete in.
Yeah, no. I wholeheartedly, strongly deny the third category introduction because I'm not a third. I deserve to be a part of the female category. I'm female. Males deserve to be a part of the male category.
Also, we need to talk now about gender. Gender is composed of socially and culturally constructed ideas about what constitutes a boy or a girl, a male or a female.
For example, if you are a transgender male, because you are just as valid as a cisgender male, we should simply refer to you as a male.
So that's sex. Gender is whether you feel like you're male, female, both, neither, non-binary, agender, or something like that. It has to do with what's in your brain, not what's between your legs or what your biological.
But in the interest of education, let's dive down the rabbit hole and answer this question together, shall we? We'll start with the dictionary definition of what a woman is. I've got Merriam-Webster pulled up here, and it says that a woman is an adult female person. And while that may sound like the super clean-cut answer that these interviews are looking for, maybe we should look up the definition of female just to be safe. Having a gender identity that is the opposite of male. Uh-oh, there's that word identity.
Man, woman, girl, boy, these are gendered terms. Male and female are sex terms.
Just for funsies, let's look up the definition of gender identity and see what that says. A person's internal sense of being male, female, some combination of male and female, or neither male nor female. Woman and man are gender terms, which are different than things like male, female, and intersex, which are sex terms. Because as I've said several times now, sex and gender are different things.
It's happened before where a mangled circumcision results in a change in the sex assignment from boy to girl. It's happened. Look it up. Gender, on the other hand, from sex, is the state of being male or female culturally or socially. So again, not the same as sex.
So I have said this before, I am a female to male trans person. I have a gender identity that is male.
Some people may want a little more science than psychology. I know it gets some flack. So they looked at gender in the brains of rats. They added an enzyme called estradiol, and that inhibited DNA methyltransferase, which is to say it changed their DNA just a little bit, or it inhibited a way the DNA naturally changes. This caused a change in the gender of these rats. Now, they didn't go interview them, they observed them. So physically, these rats were female, say the researchers, but in their reproductive behavior, they behaved as males. That's the closest we can get to observing a gender change in animals. MRI scans of transgender people who were in transition from male to female were compared to those of cis males and cis females. And the brains of the transitioned women were more akin to the gender that they transitioned to than the one that they were assigned at birth. That is to say, they were born male, transitioned to female, and when they scanned their brains also looked female.
Male and female are sex terms, and it's why people talk about they don't want to use the word born male or born female. They prefer the term assigned male or female. They thought I was this, turns out I was that, and that's such an important distinction to make. And so that's a phenomenal point. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's exactly how it should be seen. This person was always a man.
All right, Colin.
Who's confusing sex and gender now in that last 5 seconds of that guy saying assigned male, female at birth, yet I actually discovered I'm something else? Oh, you discovered you're a different sex? Did you really? How did that happen?
I don't think you can change sex.
Okay.
I think that the idea that you could change sex is a fantasy.
Don't think it's right or should be allowed.
Well, I think we need to go back to the root cause of this. Go back 10 years and trans people existed. We were fine. We were getting on just fine. And then along comes this ideology that says that we can be whichever sex we like. But what they're saying is nonsense. Women are female. Trans women are male. Male is not female. We are different. And to deny that is to deny reality.
If you would, give us a brief primer on so many gender identities that in your view require non-traditional pronouns.
Basically, it's not correct that there is such a thing as biological sex, and I'm a historian of medicine. I can unpack that for you at great length if you want, but in the interest of time, I won't.
As tends to be the case, it's bigots on the right who are the main problem, so let's start there. The primary issue is people who deny transgenderism. By identifying as trans, their chromosomes do not change, no matter what surgeries they choose to undergo. We rightfully refer to them as women because most of us have decided that it is appropriate for a society to respect their gender identity over their biological sex. This is a simple and obvious courtesy, but their sex does not change.
And what we need to make clear is that sex is not binary and that it is changeable. While we're on the topic of medical transition and surgery, it's worth noting that even though trans people can change their sex and sex is changeable biologically, it might not be changeable for social and financial reasons.
Does not actually mean that sex and gender are the same. It's rather a separate concept that is correlated with sex. And when I came to realize that and have a better understanding of that, it helped me understand that a trans person, for example, if they're biologically male, you're right, they're not female. You're correct. But they don't say they're female, they say they're a woman, which is a gender category, and it's separate from the biology.
So, this idea that, oh, you're not a biological woman. Well, I am a woman, that's a fact. I am female, so all my identity records, my racing license, my medical records all say female, right? And I'm pretty sure I'm made of biological stuff, so I'm a biological female as well.
There's the trans woman, biological male, who has been competing in cycling, who's done interviews on one of the late night shows. They're all the same.
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some.
But he says, I am medically female in an interview. I'm medically female, I'm legally female. When I go to the doctor, I'm treated just like any other female, which is BS.
That's crazy talk.
Like, I don't think there's very many people out there that are saying that sex itself is something that can be changed or switched or flipped.
I think sex is a multifactorial biological concept, and I think you can change a lot of aspects about your biological sex, save only really your chromosomes. Pretty much every other aspect of biology seems to be capable of being changed.
That's just talking about chromosomes, which has nothing to do with our definition of sex. The actual definition of sex in biology is the size of your sex cells, your gametes.
No, I'm in the process of saving up money to get bottom surgery, right? I mean, especially once that happens, like, aside from my chromosomes, there's really gonna be nothing left that's male about my body.
I specifically talk about how trans people can't change their sex.
If a transgender woman goes through all of these procedures and everything, and the only things that she doesn't have are ovaries and XX chromosomes, then I personally believe that she has changed her sex.
Like, I don't think there's very many people out there that are saying that sex itself is something that can be changed or switched or flipped.
Like, through the process of transition, we render ourselves a different sex than we were born. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, puberty's the worst thing ever. You can change your sex. This is where I get so mad about. You cannot change your sex. I didn't change my sex, people. Everyone in the world, listen to me. I did not change my sex. I changed my appearance in order for people to see me as a man. But I'm very conscious in the fact that I'm still a biological female.
Today, I want to talk about this conversation that we see constantly being brought up with this topic of, are trans women biologically male?
And we must acknowledge that when an individual that is of the male biological sex identifies as trans, their biological sex remains male.
Yet I also know some people get confused when trans people push back on being referred to as biologically this or biologically that. I know I do. I don't like being referred to as biologically male.
I am biologically male. Cue the title. That's just a fact. I am a trans woman. If you are a trans man, you are biologically female. That's kind of the whole point.
Okay, but biology, you can't change your biology. Okay, but we can take hormones and we can get surgery and that changes our biology. Okay, but you can't change, but the law says you have to be male or female. Okay, but we can change the law.
Like, I don't think there's very many people out there that are saying that sex itself is something that can be changed or switched or flipped. You know, it's a part of who you are. It's a part of your physiology. That's totally fine. We're just trying to point out the fact that sex and gender are different things.